Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of art. It's the Tenant Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson, coming to you from the 40 West Arts District here in Lakewood, Colorado. And joining me from his podcast studio in the Black Hills of South Dakota. No, he doesn't have a Dos Equis endorsement, but he is known as quite possibly the most interesting man in the world. My favorite co-host and yours, Wes Brown.
Hey, Todd. Yeah, I'm looking for a Dos Equis. So if you're out there, Dos Equis, you know, the other guy's gone. I'm here. I'm here for you. Willing to travel, willing to do weird stuff, as you already know, if you've been listening.
It's been 7 years.
Has it been 7 years?
7 years.
Since he's been gone?
No, they had another guy that they hired on for like 2 years, and I don't think it took.
Okay.
So you could be the new face.
I could.
You could be the new James Bond, but the new Dos Equis guy. What do you think?
The new old white guy.
Yeah. You got
I always like those commercials.
You'd have to grow the beard though.
Really?
Not just the goatee.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
What is going on with this? Like this every goatee? Time I see you, it looks longer. It's like
it is long. Well, I do trim it.
Did you join some like Civil War enactment like group or something?
I'm actually trying to be Colonel Sanders number 3.
Oh, dude, you could totally pull off Colonel Sanders. Have you ever done that for Halloween? You should.
No, I should. I did Charlie Chaplin once, so that was before the goatee.
Yeah.
Didn't talk the whole time. People are like, dude, I had a bowler on.
I feel like 2026 could be your year. Either Kentucky Fried Chicken is going to come calling,
or Dos Equis.
Or Dos Equis.
I'll reach out to them. I'm your man. Here's a podcast. Listen to these 6 episodes.
Come down. I'll do a whole photo shoot. We'll rent a Colonel Sanders
get
costume.
The little tie or whatever that is. I guess it's a little bow tie or whatever.
We'll put together a whole model portfolio.
There we go.
Or spokesperson portfolio for you.
That's right.
We'll record sound bites, and then we'll do a photo shoot, video shoot.
Sounds good.
Make it a big deal.
We will. Yeah.
We'll live stream it on Facebook and Instagram. Behind the scenes with Wes Brown.
We'll connect with Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast. Hey.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
I sung you happy birthday.
You did.
On your birthday. But
you did. And it was
since
nice.
It's so close to your actual birthday, I thought I'd mention
and
it.
I was lonely because my wife was out of town. So Todd serenaded me with, and then we had a few laughs and like we always do. And yeah, it was nice. Thank you. And all my Facebook friends, thank you so much. And I haven't replied to any of you. I will make an effort. It's just like, I hate going on Facebook, but I will. I know I got a few. So my granddaughter called me and my aunt called me. Like my friend Josh took me out for lunch. So, you know, that was nice. I had a good birthday all in all.
Nice. You're a popular guy.
Thank you.
Try to be him. Don't let the old man in.
Oh, I won't. You know me. Shit. 64 going on 12. My dad's 84 going on 3. So he's a toddler.
That's what happens, man.
I know.
At some point you start to degress, whatever.
That's right. Yeah. I'm on the verge.
Shall we get on with it?
Let's do it.
Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can always find out what we're up to via our social media on Instagram at Tenant Podcast, our Tenant Podcast Facebook page, and then, of course, our website, tenantpodcast.com. And now you can fill your ear holes with the sweet sound of Tenant on the YouTube platform. Thanks to Wes Brown. He got us set up on YouTube.
Yeah.
But no matter what your platform of choice is, please consider subscribing, liking, and or sharing Tenant with your closest friends and family. And you know, it's the holiday season, so remember the Tenant Podcasts. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and it's always free. On that note, you want to talk some art?
All right, let's do this. Let's talk some art.
Let's talk some art. Our guest this week is the owner of SeeSaw Art Gallery, a stunning gallery located in the heart of Englewood, Colorado, right off South Broadway on West Radcliffe Avenue. You can check out the gallery website at seesawgallery.com, and you can follow SeeSaw Gallery on Instagram at seesaw.art. Art Gallery. Welcome to the program, Hayley Schneider. Hayley, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, good. We are excited to have you here. This is
I
going to be
have to
fun.
tell you, my cheeks are sore from not laughing at the banter prior.
Yeah, you can always jump in and laugh. We like that.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm not sure that every guest, and it's hard to sometimes read the room. There's been a few times where I'm like, oh, maybe we went in a wrong direction, but
Yeah.
it always seems to work out. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Maybe they just didn't have a sense of humor. That could be.
Well, that's most likely. Or they took themselves a little too serious. I mean,
But they just don't like us,
well,
our sense of humor.
And that's fair. That's fair. We're not everybody's cup of tea.
I say that all the time. Yep. Let's kick this off before we talk about SeeSaw. I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and give us a little bit of background of your experience and who you are.
Well, I come to the art world from a varied background. I do not have an art degree. I did not go to school for art, no MFA, but I've always had a passion for it. And so I was the first in my family to graduate from college. I grew up on a ranch in western South Dakota, and stability was something that was very important. My parents were like, get insurance, get benefits, health benefits, all those kinds of things. So art was always something I loved, but it was viewed as more of a craft than something that you would pursue. And I've always been, I kind of call it art adjacent, where art's been an important part of my life, but I haven't been able to access it in the way that I've wanted to. And so I went to school, I studied journalism, did some corporate jobs outside of school. And then when my husband and I moved to Colorado from California, I went back to school to be a teacher, and I taught out here for a few years. And in 2020, so right after the pandemic happened, my husband's business moved from Wheat Ridge to the location down on South Broadway. And they had this gorgeous showroom they weren't going to be using. At that point, my kids were getting older. I was ready to make a life change and do something different. That's when SeeSaw came together. And really, it was the stars aligning. It was a way for me to come back to my passion and, celebrate art in a different way. So we've been open 2 years now, and it's been the most amazing thing that I've ever done. Maybe besides having my children, but
there you go.
So I got to ask.
Put it in perspective.
That's right. That's right. I have to ask, where in South Dakota did you grow up?
So I'm from a really small town called Phillip, a
Oh,
little past Wall.
yep.
And
My uncle and uncle lived in Kadoka. Well, he still lives in Kadoka. So
yeah, love
spent many a
Dakota.
summer in that area. So
Yeah. And then we moved to Rapid City when I went to high school. Actually, I guess I think when I went to middle school, we moved to Rapid City.
okay.
My dad commuted back and forth to the ranch.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What high school did you go to?
Stevens.
Stevens. Very good.
Yep. I'm a Raider.
All right. There you
Yep.
go. Nothing wrong with that. I grew up in Sisseton, so I'm from the Northeast. My wife is from Hardin County. So, but
Okay.
and then Todd's wife is from Rapid City. So,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh my gosh. I never
Big
meet
South Dakota
people
connection.
from South Dakota. This is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Lots of South Dakota connection here tonight. That's cool.
Just
Love
a
it.
side note, I went and seen the Return of the Pink Panther in Phillip at their theater there back in the 70s.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible. That's incredible. I can't believe they did that. Yeah. That's awesome.
Anyway, all right, enough about South Dakota. You said you've been open for like 2 years at SeeSaw.
Mm-hmm.
How did that even come to you? Like, I mean, you kind of explained it a little bit, but picking a gallery and then opening it, that's a big jump. And what gave you the courage to do that?
I think it was one of the situations of just kind of jumping in blind. And if I would have known what I know now, there's no way in hell I would have done it. No way in hell. I had no clue. I didn't even know how to use Photoshop when I opened the gallery. I'm a believer in big swings. And if you're going to go for something, you might as well jump in and see what happens. And I am I think everyone has a healthy fear of failure, but apparently I went in so blind, I didn't even have that. Yeah, it was really a leap of faith that brought me to SeeSaw.
That's amazing. And what you just spelled out, as far as if you knew then what you know now, there's no way that you would, not no way, but I just don't think that people understand how much work goes into having and running a gallery. It sounds glamorous, right? And
Hmm.
on some levels, it is glamorous, but what people don't see is all the work, the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into making a gallery go and doing it well, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, and for me, it's just me. I don't have staff. So, I wear the hat from installer to, I'm patching and painting the walls between exhibitions to hanging the art to, then doing studio visits. I mean, everything kind of falls under me. It's been amazing to start my own business and, contribute to the community. But at the same time, like it's not a part-time job. It takes everything you have.
It's a full and a part-time job.
It is. It is a full and a part-time job. Yeah.
Not to mention you're a mom and you're married. And so, all those family responsibilities and duties, it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And I have two very arty kids who are in the performing arts, so lots of performances and that kind of stuff. So the first year finding balance was really challenging because I wanted what's best for the business. And like I said, I jumped in, I didn't know what I didn't know. And then I did know what I didn't know, and that scared me, so I've YouTube more Photoshop videos in my life than, I mean, I probably could have gone to school for it by now. But yeah, just, you kind of have to figure out what you don't know and learn.
Yeah.
The building that SeeSaw is housed in, that's where your husband's company is based out of as well?
Yeah. So he has a commercial furniture business and
Okay.
my gallery is attached to their offices. So we share a space, but the gallery, it's separate from the offices, but it's one entryway in between both.
Okay. I was wondering when I visited, I saw Jessica Loving's show. I was wondering what the other business was that was in there. So
Yep.
it's
Commercial
nice.
furniture.
Yeah, right on. Is the gallery something that you've always thought about wanting to do, or you just saw the space and thought you had this vision of what this could be?
It was a little bit of both. No, I never like grew up dreaming I'm going to be a gallery owner. That wasn't like what I was, ever thought. I never thought in a million years that's what I would be doing. But it was a combination of finding the space. I did do research. I didn't just like go 100% blind. I mean, maybe it was like 50% blind. But Englewood is an up and coming area, especially for the arts, and just kind of like surveyed and thought like, what could I do here that would really contribute, that, where I would feel fulfilled. And it was just, it kind of all made sense. Like the stars just aligned.
And Englewood is, it's up and coming. I think you just touched on that a little bit. That's part of South Broadway on down. There's just some cool shops, some cool things going on. And what I love is you just never know what you're going to see. Like, oh, I didn't know that was there. Or, it could be a business that's been there for, 5 years or 50 years. You just never know. But I mean, it's quite eclectic, right?
Oh, very eclectic. I mean, I feel like the whole South Broadway corridor is super eclectic. And, we are lucky enough to get to feed off that energy. And then, I mean, I think we all know prices in Denver have gotten crazy. And people are getting priced out of the art district on Santa Fe. They're priced out of Rhino. And so Englewood, the city, has been really easy to work with for business owners. And we, like it just, people are coming there because they hear that. And now there's enough of us that it's drawing other people as well.
That's so cool. How did you come up with the name Seesaw?
Yeah, I get that question often. So the name really is it's a nod to representing emerging and underrepresented artists, kind of like elevating them, lifting them up on the seesaw. But I wanted something playful. I feel like the art world can be so pretentious, and I don't want people to feel that when they come into the gallery. I want them to feel, regardless of if they're in there to purchase art, I want them to feel welcomed and, that this is a space for them. And so I wanted a name that was a little bit more playful than just Schneider Gallery.
And how did you hit on this whole mission of representing like under the radar or new artists?
So, I mean, I think we're so lucky here in Denver. I mean, our market is isolated. People do go to Chicago, they go other places, but we're just given our geographic location, we're pretty isolated, but there's such a robust community here of artists. And so as I got to know people, got to know the community, it just became very apparent that there's so much talent here, but not enough space for the people that are making the art. So for me, what I really wanted to do was kind of fill that gap between the nonprofits that do things really well for local artists, and then, the very few commercial gallery spots where people are getting shows, and provide kind of a space for the in between.
So you said that you've been open for 2 years. You opened in November of 2023?
Yes, November 4th, 2023.
What has been the reception thus far since you opened your gallery there on South Broadway?
It's been really great. The community around me has been so supportive. They've been absolutely wonderful. So and seeing, the same people from the neighborhood coming to different events at the gallery is always so exciting. So I love like the community aspect of it. And yeah, it's been a really good reception. Was it our third or fourth show? I think it was our third show. Landed the cover of Daria. So that was, a nod that things were going in the right direction. And yeah, people appreciate the space and they appreciate the opportunity.
That's great. So you're really engaging that community right there, that neighborhood that you're in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a couple of us have banded together and formed what we call Second Saturdays in Englewood. So it's an alternative to First Fridays, because obviously we don't want to compete with the other art events around town, but provide, a different opportunity for people to come and visit galleries, the restaurants, all the different creative businesses that are in Englewood. And so, yeah, we have monthly events where most of us are providing some type, doing some type of event or artist talk or an opening or something like that. And people can come and visit multiple spaces because we don't have the walkability that Rhino or the Art District on Santa Fe have. So, we really want to bring people down and have them hit multiple places, not just my gallery or somebody else's.
Like in Santa Fe, parking is always an issue. Is it the same way down there? Is it hard to find parking, or is it pretty accessible?
I think it's pretty accessible. It could, that could change, but yeah, at least where I am, we have street parking. We have a parking lot in the back. I've never had a complaint about parking. So okay. In fact, that's like one of the reasons I think I do get different traffic is people are like, oh, I can park here. So they really appreciate that.
Oh, nice. Nice. That's always good to know, because even though I don't get down there a lot, but when I do, obviously we're going to Santa Fe, and well, even in Rhino is really a nightmare to find parking too. So yeah. So it's nice that you have that opportunity where people can come and not like feel like they can't find parking. And so that's cool.
Yeah. And especially because they have to have transportation between our different venues. If you're coming to me and then you're going to Black Book or you're going to Black Cube or N Collective, we're not walkable. So you are going to have to make your way around. So having the parking has been key.
So how many galleries got together and decided we're going to do Second Saturdays? How did that kind of come together?
Well, it came together. I was there. Rising Gallery is a couple blocks south of me. They were there. And then Space 13 was also there. I knew the owners of those other galleries. And then Nicole Corby from N Collective came down. She moved down from the Art District on Santa Fe. And there was just kind of this momentum that happened. And so we just decided to get together and say, hey, how can we support each other? There's enough of us down here now that it makes sense for us to possibly do something. And and that's kind of how it happened. And, it's not just the galleries. We have, restaurants that are doing cocktail classes, and DJs are playing, and, different things are happening. So it's not just art, but it's kind of all the different creative ways you can think about a small business.
That's really cool. And what I like about that is you guys aren't necessarily, I mean, you're competitors, because if they're buying art there, they may not be buying art with you because, we all have so much money, right?
Right.
But it's nice to know that you're willing to work together for the greater good, right, of the whole community. So that I find that very inspiring.
Yeah, I will say that that has been absolutely incredible about the art community in general in Denver is that yes, we are competitors or we're competing for like the same small piece of the pie, but everybody really lifts each other up and I've gone to Mike McClung and Michael Warren with questions because we all work, isolated. We're just ourselves in our business and
Right.
everybody's been so willing to share information. And if somebody comes into my gallery, they say, oh, I'm really looking for art that's more about process, then I'm going to send them to Michael Warren. Or if they're like, oh, I'm looking for, I do you know anyone who's really good at encaustics? And I can say, oh, go to End Collective. So I feel like, yes, we're competitors, but we all differentiate enough that it allows us to, kind of share the small collector.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Do you know roughly off the top of your head, how many galleries are operating in Englewood at this time?
Oh gosh, I think there's got to be like between 5 and 10.
Okay.
So there's some who, are super active and are doing something every single month, others who are a little bit more sporadic. But yeah, I keep, hearing rumblings of other people interested in looking for space down there also. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, we have some momentum going and it's been really exciting to see that grow.
That is spectacular when you can build that kind of community, like Wes was saying, and everybody kind of uplifts each other and is supportive. That really cultivates a great group of people.
Absolutely. And one thing we do have a lot of down in Englewood also are artist studios. So in addition to the galleries, there are the studios for, people who are making the art. And I know I just heard about oh gosh, I'm forgetting who it is, but another studio place that's shutting down, and artists are losing space. And it's been, we lost the Evans School in downtown Denver, all those artist spaces. And yeah, I just heard about this other one and I'm blanking on, Prism Studios.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently with the Broncos, it sounds like they're going to be no more. So, and that's a, huge loss to the artist community. So I'm hopeful that people will come a little bit farther south and contribute in that way because I can't think of anywhere else in the city where I know of studio space that's available.
Yeah, that's a huge hit. I had not heard that.
Yeah,
Man.
it'd be a big loss.
Yeah, it's hard enough in good times, but in bad times or when you lose some of these big complexes that house a lot of studios, that really hurts people, hurts the art community. Wow. How many exhibitions thus far have you guys had at SeeSaw?
I work on a little longer schedule than most. Given my location and being new and it just being me, my exhibitions usually run about 2 months. So given some space in between, I tend to have somewhere between 4 and 6 exhibitions a year.
Nice. I
Yeah.
think that sounds to me, if I was going to have a gallery, that sounds like a very comfortable scenario. I mean, it's still a lot of work, but not having to change out a show every month and put up a new one, that would be difficult, especially just being just you being the one that's wearing all the hats. That would be
Right.
incredibly difficult.
Yeah, I realized right away that that was not going to work for me. There was no way I was going to be able to turn things over that quickly. And also I wanted to give the artists that I'm working with an opportunity, a longer opportunity for their artwork to be up and exhibited and then also for people to learn about it and then come in, given that we were new, and not a lot of people knew about us right away. Yeah, it's worked out great. It feels like it's just long enough, not too long before we, turn something over. And I have zero negatives to say about it. It's worked out great.
Great.
As an artist, I think that sounds spectacular too, because you do all this work to be up for, 4 weeks or what have you. And then you're waiting for your next slot, but it's just like, it's so much work. So to have the art actually up for longer than a month sounds pretty spectacular to me.
Yeah, I have yet to run across an artist who said, "Oh no, I'd prefer a month."
Yeah, right.
It's too much is too long.
Yeah, 2 months too long. It'll be stale by then. No. And it just gives people more time. I think back to months like a month of photography or a month of print that we do here in Denver. And it is impossible to get to all the shows you want to get to. It's just you can't physically do it. And I feel like a lot of times before I hear about a show, it'll be like the show's been up for 3 weeks or is about to close. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to rush over there and try to catch it before it closes. And it just takes time, I think, for the word to get out about certain shows. And so, yeah, it's been a total upside. I love it.
Yeah, right on. Discuss what kind of work you show at SeeSaw.
So it's a range. I have figurative painters that I work with, a fiber artist that I work with, an aerosol artist. So it's really kind of a range of work. There's not, we don't only do people who focus in oil painting or paintings in general. It's really a wide variety of media.
How large is the gallery for people that haven't had the opportunity to visit it yet?
It's like 1,600 square feet. So, it's mid-size. It's not huge, but it's not small. So we can fit quite a bit of work in there in 1,600 square feet.
It's a really nice space and it feels good when you walk in there. We were on hiatus for a year, so as we were kind of winding down, you were ramping up. So I really was not aware that SeeSaw was even in existence. And so when I got to go visit the gallery and walk around with Jessica Loving and see her exhibition, I was very impressed.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great space. A lot of natural light, showcases the art really, really well. I mean, I love going to work. I love being in there. I just always feel inspired, and it lifts. If I'm in a bad mood, it lifts my mood just being around art. So yeah, it's a great space.
When you're having these shows, how many artists do you typically have showing at one time? Is it like a solo shows, or do you have multiple people showing at one time?
It's a mix. My first year, I did group shows mostly because I just wanted to show as many artists as I could and then get the word out. And I've had as many as, I think, my small work show last December, I had almost 30 artists who were in that show.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a wide swath of people. And then this year I started doing a little bit more, I started artist representation. So for those artists, I have done solo shows, and so it's kind of a mix. Like my next show will be a group show. It just kind of depends on the artwork, the availability, the variety.
So I want to go back to the beginning and when you started SeeSaw. So you have this idea to have a gallery. Did you have like a group of artists that you wanted right away, you knew you wanted to show? And then how did that all come about?
Yeah, I did. Honestly, it was through research on Instagram and social media, and then also studio visits in town. And a lot of it, so for the first show, there was 6 Colorado women artists who were in the show, and it was called Interdependence. And I just love their artwork. And I thought, it just kind of speaks to what the gallery wants to do. And it was a great show, a variety of media. We had, ceramicists, painters. It was a great show. And then, kind of like word of mouth or through friends or artist friends and studio visits and research is how I find most of the artists that I work with.
And then when you look at like a group show, right? Is there like a unifying theme or view of like, are artists like art similar, or is it really the gamut where you're going to go in and see an eclectic group where that's different styles? And
so I think it depends on the show and what the show calls for. So in April, it was called Visible and Visible. And that was the through line, but it was my first photography exhibition. And so I did an open call, and based on like the work that was submitted, I was able to select, the work that I felt really fit the mission behind the show. So, it really just kind of depends on what the show is calling for.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of studios, it looks like you have 2 studios that you rent there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I actually have 4 studios, 3 that I rent out, one that's mine that is just filled with mostly shipping materials, sadly. I'm hoping one day I can fill it with some paint, but and that was one of the things that I was so excited about when starting the gallery is I thought, oh my gosh, I can actually get back to my art practice and exploring that a little bit more. But the gallery has been, as you said, full-time and part-time. And so I haven't really had a chance to get back into the studio and do my own work. But I am supporting 3, or not supporting, but I have space for 3 artists who are there right now. So that's been really fun having
Fantastic.
them.
Yeah.
Do they turn over a lot, or is it usually like they're there and that's it?
They're there and that's it.
Okay.
I've had 1 turnover, and that was filled within 2 days by word of mouth.
That's fantastic.
So yeah. So lucky for me, I think based on the fact that there is just not enough studio space in,
right,
metro area, it's been very easy to fill.
Well,
spaces.
and we're friends with Bill Thomason, and I thought that was the genius of his whole thing is that he's got all these studio spaces, plus he's got the gallery, so he's got this monthly income coming in all the time, which helps offset maybe sales that are a little slumping one month, or at least he's got money coming in all the time, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah, you have to diversify, because I think, as you guys know, it's a tough market to be in. It's a tough business. It's very vulnerable to swings, and I think unless you're diversified, you probably aren't going to last super long.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's smart to have that, that diversity in your business model. Was that the vision from the get-go, or is that something that just kind of came as you opened and realized that, oh, we have this other space that we can activate?
Initially, I didn't have the space, and so it was something when the space came about, I thought, oh my gosh, I know what we could do with this. Let's convert it into studio spaces and, make some room for artists. And I know making it in the art world is so challenging for anybody, for a gallery or an artist. And so I wanted to keep my rent low. I didn't want to price people out. I want to make it accessible. And so luckily I've been able to do that, and it's worked out really well.
Talk about your hours of operation there, so people have an idea of what that looks like.
So we are open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I do ask that people ring the doorbell, because we don't get a ton of traffic during the week. And so sometimes it's hard for myself if I'm there, or the office that I'm attached to, if they're answering the door for me, if I'm over in the studio space or I'm out. We just ask that people ring the doorbell so we know that they're there. And then if people want to make an appointment with me and do like a private walkthrough, I do appointments also.
Nice.
Oh, fantastic. And that can all be done through the website?
Yep, all done through the website.
And how many artists are you currently representing?
I have 6 that I'm currently representing. So small, very small. And that's mostly, again, because it's just me and I want to do right by them. And, it's a lot, I think, just to try to keep, the work that I'm doing with them, in addition to the exhibitions that are happening and, working for that. So yeah, just 6 people right now.
Talk a little bit about who was in that stable of artists that you're currently representing.
Sure. So Jessica Loving, who you saw her, she was the show that was before this current exhibition that's up. She's a local mixed media artist and has a studio, or just recently left her studio up in Evergreen. And she's an abstract painter, just really, really amazing work. She was in my second show, and that's how I met her. And then I have actually 2 good friends of mine who are based out of Minneapolis and Tucson. And he's an aerosol artist and she's a fiber artist. And I just absolutely love their work. So that's, there are 2 more people that I represent. I have a ceramicist from Carbondale, Savannah Labov, that I work with. She'll have an upcoming show this summer, which I'm really excited about because it'll be my first ceramic show. yeah, they're a great group of people.
Yeah, Savannah's stuff is really interesting. I kind of like that when I was perusing your website.
Yeah, she does a lot of installation work with her ceramics, and yeah, she's just incredibly talented. And yeah, so working with her is always very fun. And she likes to experiment. She's not, doesn't want to stay in the box, and really pushes herself, which is fun for me. And then I also work with a beadwork artist, Sophie Hill, who is from the Ojibwe band out of Michigan. And she was here local in Denver, but has recently moved to Portland, Maine. And she's going to have an online show with me coming up in December of new beadwork that she's been working on.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Yeah, her stuff is exquisite too.
Yeah, she's crazy talented.
And reading up on you and SeeSaw, it sounds like you very much support a lot of indigenous groups, indigenous artists. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I just, I think it's really important that stories that haven't been told get told, and that people who traditionally haven't had the opportunity to have their work shown in a gallery setting, I want to provide, a space for them, which is, again, the emerging and underrepresented artists, because the art market is still really behind when it comes to diversity and who's getting gallery shows. And so if I can provide that platform, and I also love the work. I'm never going to show anything that I don't stand behind 100%.
Do you get a lot of artists asking you to rep them?
I do. I get a lot of submissions. A lot of younger artists, I think, who are looking for direction. Yeah. And unfortunately, I just have like such a small amount that I'm able to devote myself to, that, and there's just, that's part of the problem is, there's just not enough spaces for people to show art. And so it's tough, because you hate saying no to somebody, but at the same time, I have to stay true to my brand, the people that I represent, who kind of fits within that box.
So what are you looking for as a gallerist when somebody approaches? What are you looking for that would be a good fit for?
I'm usually looking for something that surprises me.
Okay.
So whether it's work that is, expressed in a different way that makes me think, materials that are used in unique ways. I love looking at work that, is using different types of materials. Really, it's that element of surprise. I want to walk away from that work thinking about it and continuing to think about it. And that's when I know it's probably something that's, special. And that is the kind of person I want to work with.
Right. Right.
Is it difficult to say no to people all the time?
Yeah, I don't like being in that position. I don't like being a gatekeeper. It's not fun, but these are people's dreams, and you hate to, tell them no. But at the same time, it's about them not being the right fit for the work that I'm showing, or, the mission that the gallery has. And so I do believe there's a space for everyone. Yeah, it is. I don't like being a gatekeeper. That is a hard part of the job.
You mentioned your art practice. What kind of art do you do?
Very, very elementary. I have dabbled in painting and drawing since college, and just haven't really had time to kind of explore my own practice, but mostly it's painting and drawing.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe when I retire, I'll get some time and I'll figure out what kind of artist I am.
I'll let you know how that goes, because I'm hoping to retire soon. Then I can put all my effort into this and not my day job. So
Right.
anyway,
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges you faced as a new gallery?
The market's challenging. And I think especially given that we're not, on a coast or in Chicago or in Texas, where you have collectors who are built up, a collector community. Yes, there is a collector community here in Denver, but it is, it's a different ballgame than it is elsewhere. And so I think, tapping into the right, markets to make sure that the work sells has definitely been a challenge. And I know that that's the case for not only someone like me who's new, but for established galleries as well. Yeah, the sales have definitely been the hardest part. But I always look for new avenues or new collaborations or different ways. And that's also like the part of the job that is, besides saying no to people, is probably my least favorite, because I like to focus on the art and, the curation and those kind of things. But the job is really to make sure that the work is selling also.
Right.
And we know from speaking with a lot of artists and other galleries that 2025 has been a difficult year. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it has been a really challenging year. I think if you pay attention to the markets at all or what's happening on the coast, everybody's been in a slump, and that's been a challenge. I think the economic uncertainty that we face is definitely a challenge. I was actually selling work over in Europe until the tariffs hit, and I haven't sold one piece over there since.
Wow.
Through Artsy, an online platform. And yeah, it's definitely been a challenging year.
So do you think that is a result of like, oh, you guys are charging tariffs, so we're not going to buy from you? Or is it because there's tariffs going the other way? What do you,
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think it's both. I think people are scared and they'll say, well, I don't want to, pay a markup on already what is considered a luxury item.
Right.
And so they, shy away or are buying local, which I totally understand. But yeah, that was something that was really interesting for me, was to see this work that was selling in Europe and then all of a sudden have that completely fall out.
Yeah.
I saw on the website you have SeeSaw Projects, which includes that representation that we were talking about. Talk about some of the other things that you offer artists.
So a lot of times, it really depends on who the artist is and what they need. So if I'm working with an artist who's brand new, maybe never had a gallery show, doesn't know how to price their work, I'm doing that kind of work with them. I'm doing, an analysis of, price across similar type work, providing them that guidance. I mean, it can really range from very rudimentary new type things to, somebody who's maybe looking to break into a bigger market. So it really depends on the artist and what their needs are.
And what kind of tools or guidance do you give when it comes to pricing? Because that is like a really difficult subject that we constantly have conversations about on the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is because there's no standard, right? I mean, it's all over the board. And, so what I try to do is find comparable artists who, and again, it's subjective, which is part of the challenge. Is all art is so subjective, but I try to look for similar artists, kind of look where they're pricing their work, what that looks like, because you may have somebody who, their work is way undervalued for how long they've been working, or, the type of materials that they're working with, to somebody who can come in inflated and their numbers don't match with kind of what you're seeing. So it really depends. We look at past sales too, artists who you don't want to hurt the collectors that have already purchased from them, so it really, I don't know, there's no magic formula I found that really provides people with the information they need. Again, it's individual. And I come at it with, the attitude, it's like, hey, this is what I'm seeing and this is what I'm noticing. But when it comes down to it, it's really up to the artist and what they think, because I can tell them what I see, what I know what's selling, the prices people are buying at in the moment, but ultimately it's their work. And so, it's their choice if whether they want to take the analysis or not.
Right.
Talk about some of the other things that are part of your business model to make the gallery go.
Yeah, we do private events on occasion with some trusted partners. So I've done some whiskey tastings with partnered with Argonaut, and they'll have like I don't know what the word is because I'm actually not a whiskey drinker, but like there's equivalent of a sommelier will come in and teach a master class on this bourbon or something to that effect. And they really like having that type of my environment, the gallery environment for that kind of class. So that's been super fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. Did you approach them or they approached you to do these kind of things?
I have to say my husband is a bit of a whiskey nerd, and so he's finagled some he finagled that for me. But yeah, it's kind of brought in people who are paying for luxury items, and so it's kind of a natural fit. And brought a new audience who, maybe wouldn't venture down to Englewood or go into a gallery. And so it's been really fun to kind of hear their feedback on the shows and what they think. And for repeat customers, who come every couple months, they really like to tell me, oh, I really love the show, or I didn't quite get this one, or just provide their feedback, which is so fun.
Yeah, that's a lovely pairing. And getting new eyes and people that may not go to galleries or museums, a different environment, and then have them exposed to art. And then they realize, wow, I could go to galleries. I'm in a gallery now enjoying this event, but there's no reason why I can't get out and go to other galleries. I think people always are apprehensive that they build up this thing in their mind, right, of what like an art gallery is, and it's only for certain people to understand art or what have you. But that's not the case. I mean, art's for everybody, right?
Absolutely. And that's, that one of the comments that I get from if we have an event or an artist talk or something that draws in a different crowd, people who aren't, used to going to galleries, and they'll sit there and they'll tell me, I just don't know anything about art. I feel uncomfortable in these spaces because I don't know how to talk about art. I don't, and I say to them, well, do you, you have opinions, right? And they go, yeah. I go, great. You can talk about art. It's all subjective. It's all how you interpret it and what you think. There's no right or wrong way. It's about your reaction. There may be a critic who writes about this piece and says it's like the best thing they've ever seen in the world. And you might go in there and say, that just looks like a pile of garbage. And that's just as valid as the critic's answer because it is subjective. I think people just forget that however they interpret what's around them is their interpretation, and that's just as equal as anything else that's out there.
So do you find people that have, like, maybe one of the first times they've ever been to a gallery, or at least your gallery, do you share, like, do you walk with them and talk if they're wanting? A lot of people don't want interaction, right? But because, like, abstract art was always just weird to me. And I never understood it until we started doing this podcast. So are you helping your, people that come off the street to kind of learn to what to look for in art and what you may think good art is compared to what somebody else might think?
Yeah, absolutely. I try to make it very open and very, take away the intimidation factor so that they can come in and really enjoy the space, think about what they're seeing, value their own opinions when it comes to that. And then also just like not make it so, I don't know, like stuffy, like it can be funny. There's a piece in the current exhibition, and it's a picture of a rooster, and it's called Big Black Cock. And I think it's hilarious. And I absolutely love this piece. And I love how playful the artist is because like we don't have to take ourselves so seriously. Like, yes, it's art, and yes, it's the art world, but there can also be a lot of joy and playfulness that, comes into the pieces. Or with abstract art, like you might see, something like, oh my God, I'm getting this vision of, XYZ. And yes, like, great. Like that's your interpretation, and that totally works. And so, yeah, just bringing in like a little bit more fun into the art that's being seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you love about art? What does it do for you?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough question. It's a great question. I feel better when I look at art. I really do. And I think it's just such a great way to comment on the world we live in, the, state that we're in. it's just a different way to process the craziness of the world we live in. And I'm always just taken aback by the story. I get all the backstory with the art too, that the average viewer isn't coming in and getting. And so, I might see something at first and think, yeah, that's, I can kind of see that, or that makes sense and that's cool. But then when you hear the story behind it, it really, and you might have seen that even with Jessica's work, Todd, because her work is so abstract. And if you didn't know the backstory about her divorce and how all of that work was coming out, or her wedding dress being ripped up and used in the pieces, you're going to have a completely different experience with that work than just taking a look at it and not knowing the story behind it. So I get to see how people take what's happening and internalize it and then externalize it through art. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that always amazes me is like, I may look at somebody's art. In fact, we had this kind of thing happen, between Todd and I all the time, but I look at somebody's art and I'm like, it's okay, but I wouldn't buy it. Then the artist comes in and starts talking about their art. And it's like, oh shit, I didn't realize that. And now I have a totally different appreciation. Maybe it's the technique they were using. Maybe it's the backstory, like, Jessica's, and it's just like eye opening, and like, I didn't understand, the comp until I watched a documentary about him and what he experienced in Europe. And then when he came to the United States, and the whole urinal thing is a pushback to what he experienced in France, right? You're just thinking, oh, he just signed a urinal, and what the hell does that mean? But if you know the backstory, then it changes the whole context. It was a pushback. It was almost a joke, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, back to like the humor, like there is humor in art. And I think people kind of forget about that. But yeah, that backstory I think is really important. And that's where I find myself, wanting to spend my time with people if they're open to it and are interested in, I have that information and I love to share it. So when they come in, I like to give them a personal, and talk about like the pieces that, maybe I saw, and then I was like, oh, I want to know more about this artist, and then the studio visits and those kind of things. So I really like to open up that aspect of the art world that not everyone gets to see.
Yeah, I think that's really important. The stories that you're not just buying the art. Yes, you buy it because you like it or it resonates with you on some level. But again, like you just spelled out and what Wes was saying previous, you're buying the artist as well. Because if you have a connection, you hear that story. To me, if you include that into the whole equation of selling art, of collecting art, it's a slam dunk. There's so many stories that we've heard, and not just Wes, but myself included. Like, there was pieces that I liked really well, and other pieces I was like, I don't know. And then I hear the story behind it, and I'm like, oh my God, I love that piece now. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you may not want to purchase the piece still, and that's totally fine. But maybe you're following the artist on Instagram and you're curious, what they're doing next or where they're going to show next, and paying attention. And I think, that's so important is paying attention to how artists are interpreting everything that's going on in the world around us, because they have such a unique perspective and are able to, take something that might be very personal, but make it accessible for everyone. And, it's a gift. And I wish I had more opportunity to explore that myself, because I just think it's vital work. I mean, it has to happen. It's so important. And people, that's why, again, like I just get crazy when people feel intimidated, or they, there's like just this pretension around the art world. And it's like, oh my gosh, no, just like come hang out and like have a drink and like, let's talk about this piece. And, let's talk about what you don't like and what you do like. And it's just feedback. And I love that. I think it's so interesting.
it elevates the experience when you are able to have those conversations, and that's what art does, right? And you touched on something. I think what you said there was really important. You don't have to necessarily buy something to go into a gallery and enjoy the experience. You can go there, and it's fun to watch the trajectory and evolution of an artist. I mean, we've been doing this for going on 6 years now. And there's artists that we followed for 2, 3, 4 years that we haven't even talked to yet. But it's fun to watch, this evolution from a body of work to body of work and just see where they're going. I get excited seeing it, and I haven't even purchased anything. And buying art can be an addiction. Ask Wes Brown.
That's right.
I mean, I buy art, but I haven't bought as much art as Wes has over the course of doing this podcast. But it is. I mean, I wish I could buy a piece from every person that we talk to on this podcast.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely. And it's, and again, that goes back to being subjective and personal, and you can enjoy the art and you don't have to buy it. And one thing I would plug for commercial galleries like my own would be, we're responsive. Museums, plan their schedules out years in advance. And they're, obviously for a longer time period, the shows that they have up, so they're not able to, and the work that they show is incredible. Nothing against museums, but if you want to know what's like happening right now in the art world, going to galleries is going to give you that sense of, what's new and what's up and coming, and, what are people talking about and what are they exploring? And because we do turn over so much quicker than, an institution, you do get that sense.
I was in Jackson, Wyoming, and one of the most fun things I did while I was there, I had a free time. I was actually doing civic education stuff. But anyway, I had some free time. I went into a gallery, and this young gallerist who was, helping run the gallery, I'm sure she looked at me and like, he's not going to buy anything. I said, hey, can you show me around and can we talk about it? And these are like blue chip stuff. These are like really, stuff that I can't afford. We just walked around the gallery looking at all this phenomenal art. And she had, some interesting stuff to say about the art or the artist. And she spent probably like 45 minutes with me as we just wandered around. And it was just so enjoyable. And she made that experience just wonderful. And, I took a little selfie with her, and I don't remember her name now, but man, what a fun. It was so much fun. I had a blast.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of my job, is getting to share the reasons behind the artwork that we're showing, the stories, all those kinds of things with people, and seeing them, somebody who might come in and just take a peek and be like, oh, this isn't for me. But if they take a minute, and it still might not be for them, and that's totally okay. But they, when you have a little bit more information to go off of, it makes the art more accessible. And then it, informs their opinion. And I just love that piece.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing.
What advice would you give to new collectors or even seasoned collectors from a gallerist standpoint as a curator?
I would say pay attention to emerging artists. I think there's something to say to collect, people who are established, who have, a record. I totally get that, your investment is sound, but I think there's so much cool stuff happening with artists who maybe don't have the name recognition or the sales history that other artists have, and paying attention to kind of, to what they're doing. And then you're also supporting, an artist who knows who they're going to turn into, or, the work that they're going to create in 10 years. They might be the next, Jackson Pollock. I mean, who knows, right? Like, we just don't know. And so my advice would be, especially for beginning collectors, is really pay attention to emerging artists, because A, they're more affordable, and B, you will get to see and watch that trajectory of their, of their career, which is really exciting.
You mentioned studio visits. Talk about that.
Yeah. So when I find somebody who, their work piques my curiosity, and I'm thinking about it, I'll reach out to them and say, hey, can I come do a studio visit? And so I'll go to their studio, kind of see work that they've created, where they're headed, kind of just seeing them in their practice. I think you learn so much about an artist when you see them in their space, where they create, anything from the Post-it notes that they have on their desk to kind of like a board up they might have tacked up for inspiration. I just think there's so much you learn when you go into somebody's studio.
It's all pieces of the puzzle, right? It's like going to somebody's house and looking at, like what books they have on their bookcase or what music they listen to. If they're a little bit disorganized, like I love messy studio spaces. Or if they're very OCD and everything has its own place and everything seems very organized. It's interesting to see the different personalities and experience that firsthand, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's peeling back the layers of the onion. You really get to see what somebody's like. Unfortunately, that's like one thing that you just don't get, the average person doesn't get access to unless you're a collector and, or know someone or, having some type of connection to do the studio visit, I think is, it's a challenge. And actually, that's why I've been doing what's called like a viewing room on the Artsy platform, which is my version of a studio visit with an artist. So for the current show that's up right now, In Plain Sight, A Celebration of Black Cowboys by Denver-based artist Joseph Graves Jr., we did this, it's called a viewing room, and it's really just kind of a look into his history and inspiration behind the current exhibition, because, we're just a little gallery here in Denver. A lot of people aren't going to get to see this exhibition, but this was a way for us to put that information out there that people could kind of really engage with, almost what would feel like a virtual studio visit with him.
And can you find that via the SeeSaw website?
Yep, you can. So if you go under the exhibitions page, you'll see it there.
Okay, excellent. Do you enjoy the process of curating a show?
I love it. I love it. I think I mentioned that I went to school for journalism, and, I graduated right when the internet became a huge thing and newspapers were just not a good industry to be in at that time with all the online changes that were happening. So I never really got to experience a job as a writer, which was obviously what I went to school for and what I wanted to do. And I have found that curation is just visual storytelling. So you're putting together a story, and all the elements that you would use in traditional writing, it's just visual. So that's my second favorite part of my job.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So what is your process? Because I always like to hear, in talking with different gallery owners and curators, I always like to deep dive a little bit into their process and how they go about doing their curation.
Yeah, so I usually, when I know a show's coming up and I've done my research on the artist, have a good strong understanding of what they want to tell through the exhibition that's coming up, or if it's a group show, through the art or through the show statement that we have. And then I really like, once I get the work into the gallery, I'm a planner. And so I have a document that has like all the size of my walls and, everything down, so I can visually start planning things out. And I'm like, oh, this piece is going to look perfect here. This piece, this will do this there. But I never, ever, ever, not once have ever, I think I need it because I'm type A and I need to plan. And it just gives me like a jumping board, just a springboard to start from. But really, it's like once the work is in the gallery and I start seeing how it interacts with each other, like different colors that pop out or different, elements that just catch your attention, or there's like this interesting conversation happening between this piece and that piece. But, oh, wait, what happens if I change it and I move this piece over here? And so it's really just like this weird conversation I have in my head and just kind of looking around, and that's how I curate, is just finding what's harmonious, what is making the most sense, what's piquing my interest. And that's what I use to really put together the show.
So do you curate by yourself or do you curate with the artist? And if you don't, how do you tell the artist you don't want them curating with you?
I have mostly done curation just by myself, but on occasion I've had, artists who have a strong opinion about how they want their work presented. And again, like, I'm just the space, right? Like, this is your work. I really do think, an artist say is very important. So if I have somebody come in, they want to change the color of the wall, they feel strongly about this piece, I don't like this piece next to this piece, no, that's no problem. Like we can make those changes, and it's a collaboration. I mean, just like with any relationship, there's some give and take. And, I might present my side of the story and say, oh, well, I put this here because, there's this really interesting conversation happening between these two pieces, but they may have a different take on it, and that's totally fine. And so we usually come to some type of agreement, but most have been very happy to just drop the work off and be like, there you go. I'm excited to come see it at the opening.
Yeah. I'm out. Sell it.
Yep.
I'll be back to pick up my check.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think there are some gallerists, and Todd, you probably know this better than I do because you get out more than I do. I think there's some gallerists that, like, when I curate alone, and I don't need your input. I don't want your input. I'll put this show together and you'll love it. Am I right or wrong, Todd?
No, I think there's plenty of people that feel that way. Like, they look at it as their art, and it is an art. Curation is an art, and you're telling a story, just like you alluded to, Hayley, and you want to present it in its best light. And so there's a lot of time and thought that's put into the curation.
Yeah, that's so true. There's so much thought that is put into it because we've been, thinking about the show, putting together the exhibition statement, thinking about all of the details that, the artist thinks most likely is thinking just about the work, but we're thinking about the presentation. We're thinking about, how somebody's going to come in and experience. Obviously I know every square inch of my gallery. I know, where the light is really good and maybe some spots where it's maybe not so good. And, just different little things that because of the position I'm in. So I do bring that to the table. And, luckily it's been when I do have an artist who has strong opinions, I mean, they have them for a reason. And so, I think it's valid to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. As the owner, as the curator, every nuance of that gallery. And I think that's valid. And sometimes artists are too close to the work, I feel like, it's fine if they want to have their input and, like you said, that collaboration. But I think sometimes they get too stuck in their heads. And so sometimes it's nice to have that outside perspective of somebody else that's taking the work and presenting it. When I've had my work shown, I'm happy to have somebody else curate it. I can definitely lay it out. I've done it before, but I'm also curious to see how other people see it and what they will do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like that. It's that, sometimes just even getting the work out of somebody's studio is a challenge because it's only lived in that studio. They haven't seen it in another setting. I'm thinking about Jessica. I came to help her move a bunch of her pieces out of her evergreen studio when we were getting ready for her exhibition. And she was just like, oh, I feel like I'm losing children. And, because they had been her babies and been with her for the past year in her studio. And she was having a hard time, like thinking about them in a different place. But then once we got there and, her show looked incredible. It was so fun to put together, but yeah, you can be really close to it. And then I think it's hard to step away, but that's where, I can come in and be like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. I promise it's going to look beautiful. I'll take pictures. And if there's things you want to change, we can have a discussion. And yeah, it's great. But usually it turns out, and I haven't had an issue where I've been fisticuffs with an artist over placement of a piece.
Yeah. It wouldn't be worth it.
I love that you used the word fisticuffs.
Well, I'm so inspired by Wes's, Western background that he's got going on back there with the saddle and everything.
No whiskey though. That's the downside.
Yeah. Talk to my husband, Kyle.
Do you sell most of your art on opening nights, on second Saturdays, or is it just kind of a mixed bag, just depending on who the audience is and who comes to the door?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I would say majority of sales tend to happen at an opening. That's when you get the most people coming in the door, whether it's from, the artists, the connections that they have, or, the connections that I have. People like openings. And so, more people, more traffic tends to lead to more sales. But, it really depends too. I've had shows come down and then I'll get a call and be like, oh my God, I just saw your show ended and I really love this piece. Is it still available? So sometimes I think, when a show is closing, it creates the urgency, or somebody, really enjoys a piece and then they realize, oh, this is closed and it's moving on. And, so I'll get like kind of the back end as well.
That makes sense.
You get a lot of foot traffic for the second Saturdays?
Yeah, we do. We do get we started doing second Saturdays in March or April of this year. And every single one has been more traffic than the last.
Wow.
So, and I think part of that, is just getting the word out and people learning about all the different businesses and figuring that out. But yeah, I mean, we've had really good traffic, so it's been great.
We touched on some of the things that's great about running and owning a gallery. Talk a little bit more about the things that you like, but also I want you to address the things that you don't like, that people have no idea, unless you have a gallery, you have no idea the work that goes into this thing.
QuickBooks. Really don't like QuickBooks. That's probably my least favorite part of the job. I'm not even joking. I hate QuickBooks so much. I'm not a good, that's the thing is, when you own a business like this, you wear all the hats, you do all the things. I am not an accountant, but that's one of the things I have to do for my job. And so, there's like the detail, the details that you get into, the logistics of running a business. Like, I don't like that stuff. I like being in the business and doing the job and going to the studio visits. And I actually really like patching and painting my walls. Like there's something really cathartic about taking down a show, getting everything, the space ready to accept a new show. I love that piece of it. And I really like the cyclical piece of it. So working in that 2-month span, where I've got that it's a consistent, you're working on that show, also working on upcoming shows at the same time, but there's like a rhythm that happens and I enjoy that. But yeah, QuickBooks for sure, can't stand.
I think that's anybody that has a creative kind of job, is like the actual book or the business side of it is the shit that drives them crazy, but is the necessary evil, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. It's and the other thing that can sometimes be challenging is because we do work in silos. I don't have a business partner. I don't have somebody I'm bouncing ideas off of. But then again, that circles back to the great community that we have, because I can pick up the phone and call Lindsay at Bell Projects or Mike McClung at Michael Warren or, Nicole Corby at N Collective and just be like, hey, I have this idea. What do you think? Have you done this before? And everybody's so willing to share what they know with you, which has been amazing.
Yeah, that's so important. Do you have a mentor?
Lindsay Bell was my mentor.
Okay.
Yeah. So she really made herself very accessible when I started. And really she saw I don't know what I'm doing. And now I'm starting to know that I don't know what I'm doing.
Deer in the headlight moment.
Yeah, exactly. And she's always been just so wonderful. So yeah, I would say, even though she's younger than me, she's definitely been a mentor to me in this business.
So have you been mentoring anybody else? Or have you got that far yet?
No, I haven't yet. I probably need a few more years under my belt before I'd, really feel comfortable taking on that role. But I'm an open book. I'm going to share anything I know with anyone I know. So if somebody had a question, I'd say, don't hesitate to ask, because if we're all doing better, we're all doing better.
That's right.
So we're all in it together.
It's a great attitude. Do you think the place that you come from, South Dakota, your Midwestern roots, do you think that has been a benefit being from that particular geographical place as far as who you are? I think Midwesterners tend to be more approachable, more friendly, and not necessarily extroverted per se, but just that easygoing, kind of go with the flow, make you feel comfortable. Has that been a benefit?
Yeah, definitely. That's something that's so important to me when people walk through the door. On an opening night, I try to greet every single person that comes through the door. I'm not always successful. I definitely miss people, but it's important to me that if somebody's making the effort to come to the opening to, see the exhibition, I want to thank them for their time. So I definitely think that's a benefit. And I think too, bringing a different perspective, because I don't have, the East Coast art world, MFA, art history degree. I'm bringing a different perspective and allowing maybe because of that different perspective and my life experience, bringing different stories to light, that haven't been brought to light before. So that's been, I definitely consider the fact that I have a different background a benefit.
Yeah.
Has your vision for the gallery changed since you opened?
It hasn't. It hasn't changed. I'm doing, exactly what I hoped to be doing when I first opened. And I think that, I can kind of say the culmination of that has been this current show that's up in plain sight, a celebration of Black cowboys, Joseph Graves Jr., a Denver-based artist, because it's kind of the epitome of the types of stories I want people to be able to tell, the artwork they want to show, stories that just don't get told. And I think there's such a place for that and people making that work. And so this is the exact type of show that I envisioned when I opened. So I've definitely stayed true, I think, to that mission.
Nice.
So since we've been talking about it, why don't you go ahead and talk about what people will experience and what the show is really all about, this current exhibition that you have?
Yeah, so Joseph is the art teacher at South High School in Denver, and he's an emerging artist and came from a background very similar to me. He's from Western Kansas, came from a family of horse trainers, and the current show is all Black figures in Western culture. And so it's a celebration of the stories that, the people and the stories that haven't been told, that have been erased through history because racism and because of, just ideals around what Western culture is. He's celebrating the diversity that, we often don't think of in the West. And yeah, it's been an absolute honor to have the show. It's on through January 18th, 2026. It's up for a little while. And I think people can come in and expect to see I think they're going to have their eyes open in a way they weren't expecting.
Yeah, he has some beautiful work.
Yeah.
You have an artist talk with him coming up, is that correct?
Yes, we do have an artist talk coming up with him on Saturday, December 13th at 4 p.m. at the gallery.
Do you do that for all the shows that you exhibit?
I try to. I think it's really important to give artists a platform to obviously not only show their work, but speak about it. It hasn't happened every show, but that is something I do strive to do is give artists an opportunity to, talk about their experience making the work for the show.
I think it's really important for people to get out and listen to an artist talk about. It enables you to wrap your head, like we've talked about earlier in the podcast, allows you to wrap your head around the work. But once you hear their story, you just get enthralled with it. And I think it's a lot easier, especially if it's abstract work, to wrap your head around it a little bit easier. And again, it may not still resonate with you, but at least you got to be part of that conversation and get to hear the thought behind it, right?
Absolutely. I've never had somebody come to an artist talk and say, "Oh, I wish I didn't come."
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't gain anything out of that. I learned nothing. You always learn something. You always have a takeaway, again, regardless of whether the work is for you or not, or it's something that you're, drawn to. But there's so much to learn from how people create work and their process and their emotions behind it. And so, it's always a lovely experience. And if you haven't been to an artist talk, I highly, highly recommend that you go.
Yeah.
And this particular exhibition that you have up right now with Joseph Graves Jr. looks like he works in a variety of mediums. Is that correct?
He does. Yes. He's a mixed media artist. So he uses mostly acrylic paint, some aerosol, and then in several of his works in the show, you'll see maps. So he'll take a map, usually it's Colorado or Kansas, and he'll place it, within the artwork. And place is very important to him. I think especially if you come from, a small town, place becomes very important. And he uses the maps as like a literal way to show place within his paintings. And so in Mile High Maverick, you'll see it in the cowboys band across his hat. And then in Chocolate Honey, you're going to see it in her boot, on the top part of her boot. So, and actually in Giddy Up, which is a portrait of a man on a horse, you'll see his entire face is made of maps.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just such a unique way, I think, to place importance on place.
I love that. And see, now again, you just gave us a little bit of a breadcrumb there of something that, is part of his process. And that little nugget right there makes me, I haven't had the chance to come down and see the exhibition. So now I definitely want to come down because I want to see where these maps are and how they're being utilized. Not to mention the fact that the work is just outstanding and really beautiful.
Yeah, he's crazy talented, and he's such a fun person. He's a wonderful storyteller. He's very open, and just I'm so excited for his artist talk because I know he's going to come away with a bunch more fans. I'm very excited for that because he's so fun to interact with and have a conversation with.
Right on. What are some of the things that people don't understand about running a gallery?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say sometimes I should only speak for myself, but because it is just me, I may not be the most timely at getting back to somebody because I'm differentiating my day based on all the tasks that I have to do. So whether I'm physically away from my computer and, working on walls or installing art or whatnot, gallerists don't just sit behind their computer. There's a lot of, work that goes into, off computer work that goes into what we do. So I feel bad if somebody follows up with me and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I meant to get back to you, but I had to hang 30 paintings today or, whatever it might be. Yeah. And it's isolating. If you don't have a team, it's you a lot of the time. I really get excited when people come through the door and I get to have a conversation with them about the art because, that interaction is so important to the experience that somebody has when they come in the gallery, but to me too, because, so much of our work is done in isolation.
What have been some of the important lessons that you've learned in the last 2 years of owning and operating a gallery?
Don't take yourself too seriously. It is art. Sometimes I have to remind myself, nobody's dying. It's going to be okay. Yes, I'm a perfectionist and yes, I want everything to be perfect all the time. But at the same time, trying not to take myself too seriously and that, when criticism happens, not to take that too personally. So whether somebody comes in and they really dislike the art or the artist or, the fact that if there's been queer art up and if people don't like that or, just allowing people their space and their opinions, but not allowing that to affect the mission of the gallery, which is to, I want to show thought-provoking work. I don't want people to just come in and, look at pretty colors. The work needs to say something. So not allowing criticism to inform my decision-making.
And on that note, what advice would you give to somebody that's considering opening a gallery and maybe has never done it before?
I would say go talk to gallerists. Go pick up the phone or send an email and reach out to us. And everybody has a different experience. And so my experience is going to be different, from somebody else's. But I would say really do your research, really, really, and really nail down what are you passionate about? Is it the artwork? Is it the artist? Is it, understanding, what your mission is and how you fit into the art world, I think is really important. And the art world means different things to different people. And understanding how you fit within that community, I think is really important because, if you're just doing the same thing as somebody else, it might not work. So I would definitely say find a reason for you to be there. What is making you different from everyone else.
And what's your vision for the future of SeeSaw?
Oh man, I don't do a ton of work around like 5-year goals or 10-year goals or anything like that, because I like to be responsive to the moment. So, and I'm okay if those goals or if things change, but I would really hope that, down the line, I'm continuing to show exhibitions that leave people thinking differently about the artist or the work that they've seen, or approaching the art world in a different way, and feeling comfortable going into museums or into other gallery spaces, and understanding that their opinion matters. Like, that's really important to me, that whatever I'm doing at my gallery, that somebody can take away and use in different places and different spaces. So I hope to be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give artists that are interested in showing, not necessarily at SeeSaw, but as a whole, approaching galleries? What advice would you give them? Because there's some do's and don'ts, I think.
Yeah, and it changes for everyone, but if you're contacting me and want me to look at your work, I would say do not just like come into the gallery unannounced with your portfolio, because being, a one person show, we're busy individuals, so I think if you really want to get somebody's attention, like, send a really professional email. Make sure your email is professional and not, crazy, I'm trying to think. I've had some people email me from some, like, crazy insane man 59 at AOL.com. And I'm like, oh, is that really how you want to present yourself professionally? Like, we might want to think about that. And then, sending a professional email, including links, so I know what your website is, or I have a way to kind of look at something. Like, I get emails all the time where somebody's like, oh, I'm so interested in gallery representation. And then they give me, I have to Google them because there's no links, there's no way to find them. I don't, I'm not familiar with them. So I'm not going to probably take a ton of time or effort to go through and try to figure out who someone is or what they're doing. So if that information is presented to me, in a nice way, then it's very easy for me to click on a link, or, open a JPEG or whatever it might be to see if somebody's going to be a fit or not. So I just say, like, it's important to have a professional presentation when you're approaching a gallery.
So what percentage do you think of artists have you accepted, or that you got from like an email or drop in, as opposed to somebody saying, hey, I seen so-and-so's work, you need to check them out, like word of mouth?
Oh man. Word of mouth is definitely higher for sure. I mean, I'm trying to think of, like, that maybe there's like one or two cases where somebody has emailed me cold, kind of like a cold call or whatever, just out of, I don't know who they are, but I've liked their work, and I'm like, oh, maybe I don't have a fit for you right now, but I have this other show coming up, you should apply, or whatever that might be. Word of mouth, from a lot of times from artist to artist, or from, a gallerist who's like, this person isn't really right for my program, but I think they might be a good fit for yours. Like, there's definitely, that holds more weight, I would say.
Yeah.
And my advice would be for, people, like, go to the openings, meet the gallerists, get kind of immerse yourself in the art world. There's, different groups that you can join, like the Biennial of the Americas, that does, a lot of work around going to different spots and really immersing yourself in the local culture. I think networking is huge and super important. And, nobody's going to find you in your studio all by yourself. Like, you have to put yourself out there. I think networking and going into those kind of places makes a huge difference.
Yeah. That's great advice.
Facts
Yeah.
right there.
Exactly.
To all you youngins out there that think you're going to be discovered on Instagram, that's all well and good, but you got to get out and shake hands and meet people and go, just like Hayley said, to openings and events and, make your rounds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, the art, art on a screen just doesn't hold up to art in person,
Yep.
So I can see something on a screen and probably if it jumps out to me, then it really might be special. But if it doesn't, it might if I saw it in person. And so, I think the element of talking to people, being in places where you're actually seeing art is so important.
Yeah.
It really is. Because I would never, if I don't go see this show, but I'm planning on going to see it, this Joseph Graves Jr. show, I would have no idea looking online about the maps.
Right.
Being
It's
in
a detail
part
you
of,
can't see.
yeah, you can't, you just don't pick up on that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to spend some time with the piece too. Like,
yeah,
you got to sit with it.
Yeah.
Let it talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing I noticed that I would, I think when you asked me about advice to collectors, it would be, we can be taken with a piece immediately, and then, then you're going to spend more time with it. But I would say, like, spend time with pieces maybe that you don't enjoy and learn what you don't like about it, because you can apply that, to what, and it helps inform what you do like. And so I think it's really important to spend time, with all kinds of pieces of art, not just, the ones that draw you in, but really spend some time investigating, why you might not like something, what feelings are coming up. Like there's a lot to be said about unsettling work.
that's great advice right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of those works, I'm thinking about a couple. There was at Bell Projects, there was a show this past winter called Girl Goo, or this past spring. And it was a collaboration between several artists in town. Some of the images from it were disturbing. And I sat there and I thought, like, God, why is this bothering me? Or why am I thinking about this? And doing some of that exploration around those pieces really, I learned so much from that experience. And then, like, looking into the artists and what are they exploring, or what is their say or their take on something. And so I think for anybody, it's just a good exercise and a good practice.
What do you do to promote the gallery and get the word out? Do you do a lot of marketing, advertising?
I don't. I do social, like Instagram, put information out on there. I use the online platform Artsy to get my work, like the artist's work, out to a broader audience just beyond the Denver metro area. Second Saturdays has done some promotional work. So we've had spots on NPR or CPR to talk about that. And so I've had, like, new people come in that way, which has been really great. But yeah, I haven't done maybe the best job marketing the gallery, but we're starting to build a following, which is really exciting. And so one of the things I do hear from people is like, oh, so-and-so came, and saw this show, or, heard about this exhibition, and, I really wanted to come see it, or, so I think word of mouth has been really strong for me.
Nice.
I definitely have talked up SeeSaw to numerous people, like, because doing this podcast, it wasn't even on my radar until Jessica reached out and told me that she was showing there at your gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And so since then, I'm like, dang, I mean, I really love what you're doing there with SeeSaw.
Thank you.
I think it's superb. And,
Thank you. That means the world. Yeah. I just, so word of mouth has been really, really great. And hopefully, as I grow and as I continue to keep doing what I'm doing, I'll have more of a marketing budget or those kind of things. But yeah, right now it's pretty grassroots.
nothing wrong with grassroots.
Yeah. Well,
That's
now
right.
I'm going to have, people banging down the doors that I'm on your podcast.
Yeah. Let us know how that goes.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh.
One of the things that I think people get hung up on too is price when they walk into a gallery, and they're like, wow, this is really great work, but I don't have $5,000, or I don't have this big art budget to cull from. Do you offer any kind of payment plan type of scenario so that if somebody walked in, say that they could afford 1,500, but the price is $3,000 for this particular piece? Do you work with people to get art in their hands?
I do. I actually just had this conversation at the last opening with somebody who fell in love with a piece, but it wasn't, within their budget at the moment. And, definitely worked with them to come up with a solution that felt good for the artist, for me, and for the collector. And then, and sometimes it's they may not have be able to afford that specific work, but there might be something in the artist's catalog that, would fit what they're looking for and is in the style that they like. So, it's on me to kind of, make that connection and just say, hey, well, let me show you some other pieces that if this is your budget where some other pieces that might be options, or, talk about doing a commission with the artist, because that's definitely a way to get what you want at the price that you want.
Yeah.
And I noticed that you have a whole gallery on your website that people can go check out. So if you're not in the Denver metro area, but you're interested in what's being shown or upcoming exhibitions at SeeSaw, they can go online, see the pieces, and they can purchase online or reach out at least to you from
Yes.
what they see online.
Yep, absolutely. So they can purchase directly through me at the gallery, or they can, go onto the Artsy platform and do it that way. So, yep, I have multiple options for people who don't live here, that if they are wanting to purchase something, to make that happen.
Well, since you talked about buying art through Artsy, so obviously they get their cut, right?
Mm-hmm, they sure do.
So you're either taking it or the artist is, or maybe you're splitting it as far as you're not getting the full commission that you would. How does that work? Our plan, like maybe I would normally go through Artsy and not think about it, but now that I'm listening to this podcast, I might want to just go straight to you. Is there a benefit?
I mean, there's a benefit definitely going straight through the gallery, because you're not paying, the gallery and the artist aren't having to pay, any fees for listing on the platform or something like that. So more money is going back to your local business and that artist, which is, super important. But at the same time, we make that concession because that artwork gets out. Like I said, I was doing more sales in Europe and things like that before tariffs hit. And it was allowing my artists to have a global platform instead of just Denver Metro, which, is important for me to offer that to them.
So is it a fee up front, or is it a fee once they sell?
Oh, it's both.
Both? You get it both ways.
Yeah.
Okay. That's nice.
They're coming at you both ways.
Right.
It's a monthly subscription, and then a fee for each artwork sold on top of that.
Okay.
But, it is better than not selling any work at all.
Exactly. My boss tells me all the time, a little bit of commission is better than no commission. So
yeah, absolutely. So, if that means we have another collector and they have that artist has another fan, then, it's totally worth it.
And another thing that, coming from the artist perspective, I've heard artists say hey, just call me, I'll sell it directly. How do you deal with that? Is that in a contract? You can't sell behind my back? And just curious on your point of view on that and how you handle that.
Yeah, it happened to me right away. And I was like, oh, I don't like this. I need to protect myself against this, because, obviously, we work on the commission of the sales that we do. So I do write it into my contract for, specific, for the specific pieces, depending on my relationship with the artist. So if I'm representing them, usually it's 50-50 split for everything. If it's not for commissions, usually that's a 20-80 split. If it's somebody who I'm just doing a show with or just putting a few pieces of work out, then, I have the rights to those pieces for the amount of time that we decide.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I didn't even think of that until we were talking to Lorenzo Chavez, and he was talking how he protects his galleries. He makes sure if he sells something personally, that commission goes to the gallery that would have had it, or how they heard about it. So if they bought something from him, but he said, how'd you hear about me? Well, I saw your stuff, so-and-so. He makes sure that gallery gets a commission of his work. So I always I thought that was a stand-up guy right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a cutthroat market. Nobody's getting rich out here, at least not that most people that I know of aren't getting rich doing what I do, or, just creating art. It's hard, when this is your job and every penny counts. But, gallerists do talk, and, people you do kind of find out about who's upfront about things. And, our community is small. So you hear about it when people are maybe doing things that, are suspect. So.
Right. Yeah. I think it's important for artists to understand that. Be straight up with your galleries. I mean, you guys are doing a ton of work for nothing until a piece of art sells. So, I mean, you just got to protect that relationship.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hard, I understand, especially for an artist who hasn't worked with a gallery before, when they're looking at giving up 50% or, whatever the gallery split is, usually around 50%. I mean, that's hard to swallow. That's a lot of money, that they're missing. But then, you look at like the promotion that we do, the fact that it's getting shown, it might not be shown at all if it's, if you don't have that relationship with somebody. So kind of explaining, laying out all the different things that come along with that relationship in order for somebody to understand why we need that commission.
Yeah. Yeah.
So looking forward into 2026, because we're at that point of the year where we're looking forward into the future. What do you have planned? What exhibitions do you have on the books for this coming year?
My first show for the coming year, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Sharon Prize. It's a grant here in Colorado for women and non-binary artists, started by Denise Horton in honor of her mother, who was an art teacher. We're doing a group show of artists and finalists from that grant. So that goes up January 30th and is up for, I think that show might be 6 or 7 weeks that it's up. And then I have a show coming up with Lucy Holtz-Snyder and Nora Schuchat, who are two local artists here in Denver for Month of Print. And Lindsay's a printmaker and Nora does mixed media, but she sews on paper. And yeah, her work is really, really incredible. And they're doing some collaborative pieces for that show, which is going to be really fun. And then I have Savannah Labov, who's the ceramicist out of Carbondale, is going to be doing a show in the summer. And then Christina Davies, who's a local abstract expressionism painter and has studio space in SeeSaw, is going to be doing a solo next fall. So that's what's on the docket. And then possibly a small work show around the holidays.
Nice.
That's 2026.
There you go.
It's really nice to kind of have that planned out.
Heck yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, you always have to, be prepared because things change, but that's the plan at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
Hayley, I really appreciate you taking time with us this evening to talk about SeeSaw and all the things that you've been doing, this current exhibition that you have, and just taking time away from your family this evening to spend it with us. So thank you very much. Is there anything else that you want to talk about, promote, mention before we sign off for the evening?
No, I just would say, to somebody who's listening, who's maybe never been in a gallery space or, doesn't feel welcome, please just come and check it out, because I think you're going to find a whole world opens up to you when it comes to art. I appreciate the two of you so much for, speaking to us gallerists and the artists out there that are, doing the things every single day and elevating the work that we do and getting the word out there. And so thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. We love talking. I mean, we love talking to artists and gallerists. It's just a lot of fun. So thank you for what you do and sharing our culture, developing our culture. So, yes.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much.
You bet.
Again, follow SeeSaw Art Gallery on Instagram at seesaw.artgallery and check out SeeSaw's website at seesawgallery.com, where you can find out more about their current and upcoming exhibitions and events. Definitely, if you're in the Denver metro area, check out this current exhibition from Joseph Graves Jr., In Plain Sight, a celebration of Black cowboys. It runs through January 18th, 2026. And if you're around on Saturday, December 13th at 4 p.m., check it out. He's doing an artist talk in the gallery. SeeSaw Gallery is located at 5 West Radcliffe Avenue, Englewood, Colorado, 80110. For the Tenant Podcast, I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown. Have a great week.